We're Ashley and Sabrina,
your co-host for Ruck Up Buttercup podcast.
Military life can be challenging,
but also has its advantages.
Come and be part of the unfiltered
and sometimes unhinged conversations with fellow military spouses, Kayla and Laura, as we dive into the occasional rant
and brave of military life.
Share the stories that make us who we are,
and showcase the amazing organizations
and resources out there that make our lives a little bit better.
Whether you're new
or a seasoned military family,
we all need a little extra love.
Make sure to catch us on Wreath Across America Radio at 11 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ruck Up Buttercup. Today we're spotlighting an incredible nonprofit out of Arizona that pairs veterans and rescue dogs for healing and hope. We have Mik Milem on here. Will you go ahead and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm the executive director here at Soldier's Best Friend. I've been here for 3.5 years. I've spent my adult career in nonprofit work. And yet what I will say is that these last 3.5 years have been the best years of my life serving as Soldier's Best Friend. What a mission we have and what a joy it is to come to work every day. I get to see dogs, which how can you not be happy if you have dogs wagging their tails, right? And I see veterans' lives transform.
Yeah, I met the organization when I went to the Dog Fest or like Pet Fest at the park in Sierra Vista and was like, oh, this is such a cool thing because I too love dogs and nonprofit work. So it was kind of like, this is what a mission to have. So can you tell us a little bit more about like what the mission is that what Soldier's Best Friend does?
Yeah, sure. What we do is we provide U.S. military veterans that are living with post-traumatic stress disorder or a traumatic brain injury with a dog. We pair them together. Most of those dogs are rescued from local shelters all across the state of Arizona. We pair them together, then they train with one of our trainers for a program that lasts anywhere between 6 to 12 months until that dog qualifies to be a service dog for the veteran. And I say anywhere from 6 to 12 months because some dogs are a little slower, some veterans are a little slower. And so however long it takes, and that's okay. They meet twice a week with a trainer. And then the other 5 days a week, they're required to train on their own.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I think when Sabrina said we were going to have you guys on the podcast, I was like, oh, I love this because I have seen firsthand how dogs and veterans who have PTSD, like it works so well. Like it really is a great resource for them. Like my husband, his friends that have all gone through some pretty interesting things, like them having their dogs, like it's important. And I love that there's an organization that's helped training them.
Yeah, it is really important. You know, dog is man's best friend anyways, right? They're already so in tune to who we are and what our needs are. A dog knows when we come home from work to greet us at the door with a wagging tail because they know we need that welcome home and we need that joy. But a dog also senses when we're not feeling well or when we're sad. They know how to come over and just lay their head on our laps. And that's just a natural thing for dogs. What we do is we actually train them to help mitigate specific symptoms of PTSD or TBI that the veteran has. So there's like 14 different tasks that we can train that dog to do depending on what the veteran's needs are. So each dog is trained uniquely for that veteran. And so, yeah, just what they do naturally just becomes enhanced by the training to really help that veteran. And here's what happens. The veteran ends up back out in life again, right? When they come to our organization, most of them have become very recluse. They don't want to go out shopping.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to go to a restaurant. They don't go to their children's little league games because there's just too many people and too many unexpected things that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so that anxiety gets the best of them. But with that dog, they finally discover really they have a battle buddy again, right? Somebody that they had when they were in the military that's going to stick by their side, is going to alert them when something's not right. More importantly, alert them when their anxiety is getting high and help them to come back to the present. And that's really important to have them come back to the present, the here and now. Everything's okay. Focus on where you're at.
So maybe people who don't know much about your mission, you guys use dogs that are from the shelter, right? So how do you pick know which dogs in the shelter are going to be compatible for this program?
Yeah, I wish it was a perfect science, but it's not.
Right.
And so, we look for dogs. What we really look for are dogs that have a calm confidence about them and a drive to work. So you're looking for a dog that you can, play with their ears and their feet, and while they've got food in their dish, you can just, mess around with that, and it doesn't bother them. You'll look for a dog that when you introduce them to another dog, they can look at the other dog, but ignore it. That's another dog, or maybe want to play with it because we can kind of work that out of them. The need to want to play all the time. But if there's any aggression or any sort of reactivity to another dog, then they wouldn't qualify for the program. So we're looking for calm confidence. Because they're coming from shelters, we put them with a foster for 4 weeks or 5 weeks so that they get used to being in a home again. Because sometimes once they get settled in, some of that bad behavior will come out, right? So we don't want that to happen while they're with the veteran. Though, again, there are times when a veteran gets a dog and 2 weeks in, that dog starts having reactivity either to people or to another dog, and we have to watch the dog from the program.
It's interesting. So is it possible for, like, say my husband, we have a dog that we've had for years. If that was a dog that was compatible for the situation, would they be able to bring their own personal dogs into training?
For sure. I'd say about 25% to 30% of the veterans do bring their own dog into the program. And so that they're allowed to do that. It's got to be under 3 years of age. And it has to pass, obviously, the behavioral test and then a medical exam as well. So we do a medical exam on all the dogs to make sure what we're really looking for is that their hips are good. They can't show signs of hip dysplasia because they're a working dog. So there's a lot of up and down, a lot of walking. And so you want a dog that's going to last a long lifetime.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So as far as how the training works out, so you talked about they meet twice. Is that on, like, one-on-one person with a trainer, or is it group sessions? How does that work out?
Yeah, so it's both of those. So they meet once a week, one-on-one with their trainer, and then they will meet once a week in a group class, which is really kind of what the joy of the program is, because the veteran realizes I'm not going through this alone. There's others that are at the same place I am, so that camaraderie becomes really important. Yeah, in fact, let me just say this. We always say when you leave the military, there's a number of things you lose, right? You lose your pay, you lose your sense of purpose and mission. You'll lose your sense of camaraderie that you've had with this group of people that you've served with. And so all those things are what get lost in the midst of leaving the military, right? What we do is we provide them, once again, the camaraderie that they need. We provide for them purpose because they have a dog to train. We provide them a mission to get that dog to be a service dog for them so that they can go out again and live life. So we're really helping to replace so much of what they've lost in the military with that battle buddy dog. So that to say, they train once a week with a trainer one-on-one, and then once a week in a group setting. And then, like I said, the other 5 days a week, they train on their own. And the training goes through stages. They first train for like basic obedience and the bonding that is really important during that first 3 months so that they can pass the Canine Good Citizen test. It's not required for a service dog to pass that. It is for our program because we want to make sure that the bond between the veteran and the dog is strong so that we can move on to what we call public access. So then once they've passed CGC, we'll start visiting restaurants and Target and Home Depot and Lowe's, the mall, start going to public places where the veteran doesn't want to go with their dog and their trainer so that the veteran can learn that indeed they can do these things again because the dog is there for them. At the same time, we start training the dog for the tasks that the veteran needs. So, they get into Target and suddenly the veteran will say in the middle of an aisle, I got to get out of here. Like, this is too much. So then the trainer says, stop. What does the dog need to do for you right now? And the dog usually has already begun to do it, right? The dog is already touching their hand, or the dog is already leaning against them or jumping up on them. The veteran hasn't realized what that dog is doing is distracting them to say, focus on me. Because you don't need to focus on all these people that are here. Focus on me and you'll be okay. And it's amazing to watch that happen, right? That the dog begins to do that. To realize, like, I'm here for you. Focus on me.
It's so funny because it makes me feel like I am my husband's veteran dog. We were at a concert last weekend, and I'm like, hey, we're in standing room only, and there's all these people, and it was super overwhelming for him. And I'm like, hey, just here, like, hello, we're okay. We want to be here. This is what we came for. So that's so funny. I feel like I do that for him as a
I do that too. I think that's really funny. But I also think that's just something like a lot of military spouses do if their service member has that. But like I notice our dog does that to Jeremy too. Like if there's like, loud noises that sudden loud noises, like he'll be like, oh, like, well, he's also a beagle, so he likes to be louder than the loud noise. So he's like, obviously the attention goes straight to him. But yeah, I think that's funny because I do the same thing.
Yeah, and which brings up another point. We're not just touching the life of a veteran and of a dog. The whole family gets transferred, right? Because the spouse who has become the primary caretaker and the primary support system for that veteran with PTSD, now they have this sense of relief because the dog does so much of that now. So now they can just be the spouse.
Yeah.
And you can see a renewed marriage and relationship taking place. It's a beautiful thing to watch too.
Yeah, it would be nice not have, I mean, it's not that I don't like mind doing it, but it would be like, having that opportunity of just being the spouse and letting know, oh, if something's wrong, or our canine friend will be able to pick it up type of thing and handle that situation. Because I feel like dogs are much more in tune to body, everything when it comes like posture, heart rate, things like that. So like they'll probably pick it up before we can as human beings. And so I love this program. I love that there are individuals out there who are doing.
It would be like a reassurance too, because I think sometimes he doesn't want to, at least with my husband, admit that it is his PTSD that's acting up.
Yeah.
And that's what the issue is. And where if he were to have that kind of a dog companion with him, that would be like, hey, it's not just me saying that you're acting like you need to calm down or we need to get out of the situation. Like the dog is also indicating that you're getting overwhelmed. And I think that was super, super supportive in our family. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and here's the thing. Isn't it easier, instead of saying to people, I'm having an anxiety attack and I need to get out of here, isn't it easier to say, because your dog begins to alert you, to say, oh, my dog needs to go to the bathroom.
Yes,
absolutely.
And then
it gives them that, it definitely, especially for that like big macho type of personality where they don't want to say that they have this mental issue in their mental health issue, something's not right with them, however the case they may feel that it's whatever it is for them. But yeah, having it like, oh, you know what, hey, I gotta, my dog needs to go use the restroom, let me go take him for a quick walk, or that's a great excuse. I feel like that is probably one of the highlights for a lot of service members, to be able to be
for sure is
accept it, like it, move out of the situation, not because they're having a problem, but they can have that like time to move on. Yeah, excuse. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Clearly I can't talk today.
So who is going to be the veterans that are able to be part of this program? Is this are active duty available to use this program, or is it just for out of veterans out?
Yeah, it's just for veterans only. And the reason why is because the dog couldn't go with them if they're on active duty. Right. And so it becomes really difficult. And then again, we never know when they might be called up, right? So they could happen in the middle of training and disrupt it all. So we just do veterans only, though I will say, that we have a lot of active duty that are at Luke or at Fort Huachuca, who are like, as soon as I'm out, I will be in the program, right? I mean, like they already have been diagnosed and they already know that they need the program. So that's really important. And the only thing we really require, but it is important that we require it, is a confirmation of diagnosis from a therapist. And most of the time that's going to come from the VA or from one of the vet centers. It doesn't have to, but most of the time that's where it's going to come from. We have a great relationship with all 3 VA hospitals here in Arizona, and really all the vet centers as well. And so they do a lot of the referral to us as well. But it's not the only place that we get referrals from. In fact, this last time we had somebody come in, which surprised me. They asked them how they heard about us and who referred them. They said, oh, Mik at the gym. And I said, you got a lot of anxiety. Are you a veteran?
You can definitely spot it. I can spot it in like my friends. You're like, oh yeah, you were active duty. I can see that in you.
Yeah. Especially like in like crowded areas and stuff like that. Like I don't know what it is. It must be just weird growing up military. Like I can hone in on who were service members and who may also be having like an episode of, anxiety or whatever may be increasing. And it has to just be because we're part of the community, but it's definitely something that having that support system is so important. Like not only having the support system of your family unit, but having the support system. Like I said earlier, we had a really good friend who has really bad PTSD, and him having a dog has like drastically changed the way that he has been able to maneuver through everyday life. Like I mean, he wants to live. Like he's like, can't really, I'm gonna go for a run. I'm gonna start running again with my dog. I'm gonna go to the dog park. We're gonna go to the breweries. We're gonna go do all these things, and all because he got a dog. And that, you know, the dog hasn't gone through the training specifically like that you guys portray, but it does do wonders for the soul for anybody. I mean, I feel like I couldn't go through military life without a pet. Like it's, you know, having that companion, like when my service member is gone, is also super important to me. So they just provide that extra comfort. And I think that's so important for military families in general.
Absolutely. And a purpose, right? I have to get up out of bed every day because my dog needs to be fed. My dog needs to go outside, right? My dog needs exercise. I've got to go out and walk it. This purpose that's given. And so that's, I think, really, really important. So
it is. And so you can tell us a little bit more. You're a nonprofit. And so obviously the things you do are from donations and contributions from around the community. So how does it exactly work within the nonprofit realm to provide this program for veterans?
Yeah. So, you know, if you were to go out to an organization that provides service dogs, and there's plenty of them out there that train the dogs, and then, you know, you can purchase a trained service dog for them. It's going to cost probably anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000, way out of the reach of the vast majority of veterans, right? Well, the vast majority of people. So, let alone veterans. And so our program, it cost about $7,500 per veteran to get them through the program. So we really do it in an extreme cost-effective way. And of course, obviously, it takes the donations of the community for that to happen. And we're thankful for that, right? You know, and there are people who give monthly. There are people who will sponsor a team to go through the program. And when they do that, they give $7,500. We provide them pictures of the team going through the program. And then we also invite them to come to that team's graduation. You know, there are some people who will sponsor specific things about the program. Tri-West sponsored backpacks for all of the veterans to put the supplies in that they get going through. And they didn't want to be the only people on it. So they wanted the top 10 sponsors logos to all be on that backpack. So every veteran knows there's a community that's behind you as you enter this program. And I think that's really important. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways that people support and sponsor. And, you know, when I go out and speak, or Emilio Driscoll, my development manager, go out and speak, we don't spend a lot of time talking about money. We talk about the program and the need that we want for veterans in the program, because we have capacity for more veterans in this program. And we do that because the money always comes in. When I live by this theory, and I've done nonprofit my basically entire adult life. When you do what's right, the funds follow. People give to things that when you're doing what's right, and what we're doing is what is right. We're literally helping to transform veterans' lives, and we're giving purpose and life to a rescue dog as well.
Yeah, and your mission is so important. And like you had said, you're not just providing these dogs. You're not providing the therapeutic sense of what the dog is, but you're bringing them back into a community. Because so my husband is out now, and so I know that transition. I know exactly how it felt. And that is why Deployed Love and Ruck Up Buttercup came around, was actually the year after he got out, because I was like, I don't belong. Like, where is my military family? Like, the community is gone. Like, it is a huge transition. And so I created Deployed Love because I was like, well, I want to be back around my people. I want to figure out how I support our community, because we're still part of that military community. And it just takes finding where you plug yourself in, I think, is what it is, because it still exists. And sometimes veterans go back to their homes where there's not as much of a military presence, and they are like, oh, there's no, it doesn't exist. I'm not part of the structure. I'm not part of the mission of anything. But I think if you're willing to plug yourself back into the community, they'll still support you. Like, I've been part of this now for 9 years with Deployed Love, and we've been out, and I still feel like a military spouse. I mean, he's contract, so we still do military life. Everything is pretty similar, but it was so nice to find that community. And this is what you provide with your group stuff, which is so cool for the veterans.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know if I said to you guys, but we are statewide. So we have our main office is in Peoria, Arizona, where our main training facility is. And 30%, 40% of our veterans train at this facility. But we have trainers and training facilities in Sierra Vista, Tucson, Prescott, Flagstaff, Yuma, Show Low, Mesa. We just are getting ready to hire a trainer in Kingman so we can reach all of Mojave County. So we are literally statewide. And in each one of those communities, what's important is that we get those veterans together, right? That camaraderie, that community is so important for them so that they know they're not alone. I mean, a veteran moves out to Show Low or Yuma or even, Mojave County, well, even Prescott for that matter, because they want to get away from everything, right? They want to isolate themselves. So when they can discover this community that understands them, it makes a world of difference.
It really does. So you guys are in Arizona. So if you're at Fort Huachuca or up there in Tucson is the main bases. I'm thinking there's Yuma also that you guys would be available for this. But are you guys looking to expand? Like what is in the future for your mission?
Yeah, so that's a good question because there's a number of things that are on our expansion radar. So first one is we hope by the first of the year to be established in Kingman, Arizona, so that we can reach Mojave County. There's 23 veterans living in Mojave County, and if the statistics are right, then a third of those are living with PTSD or TBI, and so there's a great need for veterans in that county. So that would include Bullhead City, Lake Havasu, and Kingman as the cities that are in that county. So that's one. The other expansion we want to see is we want to get more permanent facilities. Right now, we lease space from other dog training places in most of our locations. And so we want to get facilities that are ours so that there's signage there. And the reason why is just really marketing purposes for a veteran to know we exist. It's unbelievable how many people, veterans, when we say, how did you hear about us? Well, my VA therapist told me about it. However, I've seen you guys on 75th Avenue. I've driven by there, I don't know how many times. It's not all of it, right? So that makes a difference. And so we want to do that. That's on the expansion. And then the other thing is, and this has happened, but it will continue to grow. And I don't think you're aware of this, but we have a prison dog training program as well. So about a year and a half ago, we placed our first dogs at Fort Grant Prison, which is a men's minimum security prison down in Wilcox, Safford area. It's between those two towns, up against the mountains in the middle of nowhere. So we placed our first dogs there. So we have 12 inmates there that were trained to be dog trainers, and we have a trainer that goes twice a week there to work with them. And then they train these dogs. And what they're doing is they're training the dogs in basic obedience. So the veterans that have highest anxiety, or more importantly, our Vietnam veterans who have mobility issues and patience issues at this point in their lives, because come on, they're 75 years old. To give them a dog that's already partially trained and has basic obedience down is a world of difference because now they can get in the program and be successful. And so this is really good. So we have 12 inmates there that are training dogs for us. They have 6 dogs there right now. And when those dogs get to a certain place and we have veterans for them, we pull them out, give them to a veteran, then we place another dog in there. We've been doing that for a year and a half at Fort Grant. And just last month, we placed our first dogs at Perryville Prison in Goodyear, Arizona, which is a women's minimum security prison. So we have 10 inmates there that have been trained. Got 5 dogs in there, and they're training those dogs for us. So again, when we're talking about touching lives, you're touching the lives of veterans, you're touching the lives of dogs. Now we're touching lives of inmates who have purpose and a reason to get up every day besides just to wander around a yard mindlessly. They have a purpose and a reason to exist, and they have really a skill that they can actually get a job with when they get out. So, yeah.
That's so wonderful. Like, I mean, that's just such a great use of your resources. There's people out there that have nothing to do, like you're saying, like mindlessly. They're just there and they have to spend their time there. That's how that works. But like to give them something also to look forward to. And I'm sure it's healing for them as well to have the companionship of a dog, because you don't get that usually in the jail systems.
For sure. And some of those are veterans that are in those programs. And we give preference to that if there's a veteran. And in fact, we have one veteran down in Fort Grant. He had a service dog when he was out, and then he ended up incarcerated. Training as the service dogs, he's had 2 dogs now that he's trained for us. he said it has made the world of difference to him to just complete his healing process,
Yeah.
because he had that out of prison, and to have it now in has made a world of difference to him. And he's getting out actually, I think in November. He gets out and he says, I'm a changed man. So that's really cool to hear.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So you've been part of the organization for 3.5 years. I mean, that was a story that you just told us, but I would love to hear another really memorable story of like how this has helped a veteran that you personally know.
Yeah, for sure. So our former veteran service specialist, his dog, I personally witnessed 2 different times when his dog really stopped suicide. So he 2 different times just hit rock bottom again, called me and said, I don't know what to do. I said, I'm on my way over. But when I got there, his service dog was already doing the job of just keeping him settled until somebody could get there to get him to the VA to get some help. Needed some change of medications, needed some things to take place in order for him to be able to be balanced again. And I saw that happen on 2 different occasions with him. And I really knew that, like, if Anubis had not been there, he would not have made the phone call to me. He would not have made the phone call to anyone, and he would have gone through with suicide. He
Yeah,
just
and
would.
I mean that's a huge part of the veteran community is that awareness of mental health problems, and to be able to know that you fully like helped somebody. I mean that's such a a relief to that, because
Absolutely.
we talk
And
about that 22 all the time, and it's a number now. I feel like we've talked about it too much, calling it just the 22 a day, because now it's just another statistic, another number to people. But as a person in the military community, and people listening who are on Reach Across America, because we broadcast through them, are going to be like, but those are our people. Those are our family. That's our friends. 22 people is a lot of people. And that mental health needs to be spoken on. People need to be more aware of what's going on.
yeah, and I'll say this in reference to that. I mean, we've had 473 veterans graduate from our program.
Wow.
And of those 473 graduates that have graduated from our program, there's been 2 that have died by suicide. But I will say that every single one of them coming into our program, when we do the PTSD assessment test, every single one of them is very high on suicide ideation ratings. And so to know that 471 of those have been prevented is huge.
Huge. That is a astounding testament of that program itself, is to show that, well, one, it's unlikely that you're going to ever be able to make it 100%. Like, we're human beings, we know that. But having that many people and only 2, that's astounding. I feel like congratulations is order, because I feel like that is really, really impressive, and shows how well and how important the program is.
Absolutely. And the other thing, which is, again, maybe not as shocking, but to me, just as important, is because the other thing that almost every single veteran has is a really high rating of nightmares. So not being able to sleep through the night, not having a restful night's sleep, and so often the spouse not being able to sleep in the bed with them anymore because of the thrashing that takes place when the nightmare happens, right? So to be able to come back and say that the nightmares no longer happen because the dog wakes me up before I even enter into it. The dog picks it up, the sense of it, and that's done by the smell of cortisol. And we can train the dog to smell the cortisol and to react to it. But if the bond's good enough, most of the time we never have to do that training. The dog naturally does it. They pick up the smell of cortisol and they wake the veteran up before the veteran even knows they're in the midst of that nightmare. And so veterans saying, I sleep through the night now. And some of them just say, I just sleep through the night because I know the dog's going to wake me up anyway. So now I just sleep through the night. To have your spouse back in the bed with you, I mean, my goodness gracious, let's save a marriage, right?
Yeah. That's so important. I mean, we were talking about feeling like I'm that support to my husband, but that's something I cannot do for him. I don't know when, I do know when he's having those dreams, obviously, because you see that in real life, but I wouldn't know how to oh, we should wake him up at this point, or just nudge him in the right time. That's something that really cool that a dog can do. And also as a dog lover, not
only that huge number of veterans you've saved, but how many dogs do you guys have? Like a list of how many dogs you've saved?
We do. So it's over 380 dogs have been rescued. So
Oh my
because
God, that's so great.
we do track veterans that bring their own dog into the program, whether it's a rescue dog or a bot dog from some from
Breeder or
whoever.
something. Yeah, yeah. But that's amazing too, that like not only are you saving veterans life, but you're saving dogs from potentially being euthanized. And
Absolutely.
that's great as well. I think that's just another testament to your program, that it's 2 lives. You're saving 2 lives, not just one.
Absolutely. And any dog that's washed out from our program never goes back to a kill shelter. And most of the time, we get them adopted out to a family, oftentimes to a veteran who doesn't need our program necessarily, but just needs a companion, right?
Love it. I love that so much.
It is. So for our listeners who are listening, how can they get involved, whether that is donating, volunteering, being a foster family potentially, or like spreading awareness for your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say first and foremost, listeners, if you know a veteran that's living with PTSD or with a traumatic brain injury and could utilize our services, please let them know about Soldier's Best Friend and encourage them to go online, right on the homepage. We have a button that says request an application, and you just submit that form, and the application is sent directly to your email for you to complete. Right now, we have 57 veterans in training across the state, but we have capacity for another 50 to be in training right now. Our trainers have that capacity. So we'd love to have more veterans in the program. That's first and foremost. Second, if people want to volunteer, so the best way, the most useful volunteer we can have is fosters. People who are willing to keep a dog for 4 to 5 weeks to get it transitioned from the shelter until it's placed with a veteran. So that's the most useful volunteer we have.
And I feel like that's a good place where active duty families can plug themselves in.
Absolutely.
In that area, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then begin to realize what a dog can do, right? That companion. And then the other way obviously is donate. So if you go to soldiersbestfriend.org, there's a donate button on every single page. And there's places where you can donate, and we're always happy for people to partner with us in what we're doing.
Of course. And I know we personally will be sharing it. And like I said, we are on Race Across America Radio, so that's across the nation for veterans, which is fantastic. I have lots of connections in Fort Huachuca, so I will definitely be sharing across the location there, which is great. Otherwise, yeah, like you're saying, we encourage veterans to apply for it. Like, that's super important.
Yeah, and I will say this, even if it's somebody listening from another state, contact us at soldiersbestfriend.org, and we can refer you to an organization in your state that is doing the same thing we are.
Perfect. That was going to be my question is do you know other organizations that's doing this? That is wonderful to hear that is something that you guys have already networked and connected with, because I do think this is such an important program, and more veterans should know more about it. So we cannot wait to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can refer to just about any state in the nation. So an organization that's doing the work we are.
I love it. So as we're closing out, is there anything that you wanted to kind of add to this to get out to the message to anybody else that may be listening?
My only message is that if you know a veteran that could use the program, please refer them.
Absolutely. All right. So you guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode. I know I was looking so forward to this after I had met some of the volunteers in your organization. I was like, these people need to come on. And it's something that we don't hear a lot about, but there is such a need for. And I'm excited to hear that not only do you have it in Arizona, but you know people in other states. So if you're a veteran or a military family that wants to kind of get interacted with dogs and find your battle buddy when you get out, we would love to have you find his information in the show notes, get connected, and hopefully that will bring you guys some more veterans to work with.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate talking with you today.
Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys on the next one. As we like to say, Ruck Up Buttercup.
Thanks, guys.